Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a special World Cup edition on Talking Sports with the Youngster and Old Man. I am Old Man Troy. As always, joined by the marvelous youngster, Kevin Cunningham, a.k.a. Kid Cunny on Twitter. Kevin, I was going to try and impersonate the old epic goal call. Goal! But I thought I didn't want to scare people away. I did not want to scare them as an intro with my voice doing the goal. It's much better. Last week's special episode, I actually put it in the background of us talking, but I can't top that. I can't even come close. But how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing fine. But to keep it soccer related, I can, I guess, say, yell. It's not really yelling. Proclaim, exclaim, whatever you want to use. I can say a word loudly for a longer period of time, I think, than most people can. Can I do it as good as, the Colombian national team's announcer? No. But
do it, youngster. Do it. Give it your best shot. Do it. Do a little one. Do a little preview. Come on.
No.
Come on, youngster.
Not on this show. We'll save it. We'll keep the listeners interested. The listeners were not going to listen to next week's show. They weren't going to do it. Now they actually might, because now they might hear me yell out goal for about 10 seconds. So that's going to be the key teaser for next week's show. We're going to do a weekly show on this. The World Cup goes on for, I don't know exactly how long it is. What is it, month and a half? Maybe? Does it stretch out?
Yeah, close to 2 months.
Maybe?
Close to 2 months.
So we'll keep fans updated, and I'll do a goal impersonation sometime in the future. And follow us, again, on Twitter, at YoungsterOldMan. That's our show handle, to eventually hear my, rendition of goal. And
I see. You gotta warm up. You gotta practice. You gotta get those vocal cords all loosened up. Gotta train.
I've got it. I've got it down. No.
Yeah, you gotta get them. Gotta get them ready though. I'm expecting an A+ goal sound here.
Okay. Yeah. I'll give it to you. But for now, after the first week of play, Troy threw out again at YoungsterOldMan on Twitter, shot out our podcast, and we basically talked about U.S. soccer for the first 10 minutes. Then we previewed the World Cup. Now, a week later, we are a week into the World Cup. And so every team has played at least one game. I know Russia has played 2, Egypt has played 2, and that's it. Everyone else has played one game. So we're going to go through each group. We're going to go through each group pretty quickly. This week's show will not be last week's show, which was, I think it was like an hour and a half. This one, we're going to keep under an hour. That's certainly our plan. We believe we can do it. Basically, we're recapping stuff. And there are certain things, like Germany losing, that I know I want to talk about, and I know Troy wants to also talk about, because Germany was picked by, I don't know if I officially made my prediction last week, but I think we both alluded to it, and I know Troy basically said it, that we were picking Germany to win the World Cup and repeat as champions. We'll get there to Germany when we get to that group, but unless there's anything else you want to throw out before I get started, Troy, I'll get to Group A.
No, just a lot of stuff going on in a couple, match day 1, all the first day games is what they call them. There were some big surprises to me, but there's also some things that we talked about on our show. If you listen to what we talked about, that actually came to fruition, and we'll get to them when we talk about these teams, such as a Brazil team and Argentina team. There's some things I want to bring up there because we kind of alluded to it, and it's kind of interesting. But the one thing I want to say before we get started, Kevin, and we'll talk about it when we get to Germany, it's one game. And if you lose your first game, you always want to win that first game in a round-robin tournament play because it takes some of the pressure off. Losing one game in a round-robin tournament does not eliminate you from moving on into the round of 16. So I wanted to throw that out there. One loss does not kill you. It hurts because you put yourself behind the 8 ball a little bit, but you got 2 more games to make it up. and you're most likely going to have to play another one of the teams that won their first game. And if you beat them, all is good, because now you got the head-to-head tiebreaker. All right, youngster, take it away. Let's go to Group A.
Yeah, so Russia has played twice, the host country for this 2018 World Cup. Again, the U.S., by the way, won their bid for the 2026 World Cup. The U.S. is sharing it with Canada and Mexico. We talked about that on last week's show. 2026 World Cup will be here in the United States, at least partially, again, shared with Mexico and Canada. But so Group A, Russia is on top by a mile. They have played 2 games, so they have had a chance to, extend their lead past the other team who has won their game. But Russia is 2-0. Russia has a +7 goal differential. Russia beat Saudi Arabia the opening day of the World Cup 5-0, and then Russia just beat Egypt. What is it? That's today, I guess. Russia beat Egypt. We're doing the show June 19th, by the way, Tuesday, June 19th. Russia beat Egypt 3-1. I know Mo Salah, a attacker for Liverpool, had a fantastic season this past year, hurt himself in the Champions League against Real Madrid, I heard, and so he didn't play in Egypt's first game against Uruguay. Uruguay beat Egypt 1-0, and I think it was like the 89th minute, maybe the 90th. I don't remember. It was a few days ago now. But so Russia has killed it. So far, Mo Salah got back in for Egypt in Game 2 against Russia. Russia still won 3-1. Russia's looking like they're going to, maybe they already have clinched a spot in the round of 16. I'm not entirely sure. But goal differential-wise, doing quite well after 2 games. Uruguay, again, beat Egypt as well in this group. And that's it. Tomorrow, Uruguay plays Saudi Arabia. And then it'll be Russia and Uruguay in the third game, as well as Saudi Arabia and Egypt. I guess Russia playing Uruguay is the interesting matchup to watch for. And those are the 2 teams that Troy and I picked to advance out of this group. We had Uruguay on top of this group and winning this group, which they obviously still can. It's probably going to come down to Uruguay versus Russia in the third game.
Well, if Uruguay does not beat Saudi Arabia, Kevin, I will just do one of those "Are you kidding me?" things.
They almost tied Egypt 0-0 without Egypt's best player. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Uruguay should dissemble Saudi Arabia, and then that last game, Russia versus Uruguay, is going to be a real good one. But now here's the thing: if Uruguay beats Saudi Arabia, then both Russia and Uruguay have already clinched. So that third game is just going to be for who's 1 and who's 2. That's all it'll be.
You're right. Very true. Very true. I'll still go with Uruguay. I guess that's something we can mention. I'll still go with Uruguay, but Russia is obviously.
Well, we can't change what we talked about, youngster. It's all you put it down in permanent marker. We can give our thoughts our pick just went down the pooper. I mean, we can definitely talk about that. But yeah, there's no changing. We gave our picks live on the air.
Yeah, I'll say this, I guess, that if I were to change my pick, and I'll say that ultimately, like you said, I have it written down here. So there is no changing my pick, but I can think differently. I'll just be wrong on my original pick. I'll still go with Uruguay. Obviously, Uruguay and Russia are the most 2 talented teams in this group. It'll be interesting to watch them play each other. That's Monday, June 25th, for those interested in that game. Moving on to Group B, Iran is on top of Group B. And I don't think anyone would have thought that, although if you would have listened to our show previewing the World Cup, maybe you would have thought that. Or maybe you would have thought Morocco would be winning this group, not Spain, not Portugal, because Spain played Portugal, and they tied 3-3. I also said if there was one game to watch for in this group play between any group, not even just the first game, not the second game, third game, all the games, Spain versus Portugal is going to be very interesting. I am very glad that I saw all 90, however many minutes there were in that game, 93, whatever it was. Spain played Portugal to a 3-3 tie. That game was fantastic. I was very happy to see that. I was surprised that Portugal scored 3 goals on Spain and David De Gea, but both teams looked phenomenal offensively. Ronaldo put in all 3 goals for Portugal, and the third off of a free kick was just gorgeous. Right around the wall and just right into the top corner. De Gea could not do anything to that. It was just beautiful. Spain fought their way back multiple times in that game. Down, I think they were down 1-0, tied it, down 2-1, tied it, took the lead up 3-2, and then it was like the 87th minute, something like that. Ronaldo put in the free kick to tie it at 3-3. But so it was a fantastic game. But so Iran played Morocco already. Iran won that one 1-0. So Iran has 3 points. Spain has 1 point. Portugal has 1 point. Morocco has 0. Iran's on top of the group. Obviously, that will change when Iran plays Spain on Wednesday. Iran plays Portugal on Monday, June 25th. I believe that maybe Tuesday, June 26th is the final day of the group stage play. But Portugal-Spain was an awesome game. Now both these teams should basically run through Iran and Morocco. That's my assumption. Obviously, still sticking with Spain and Portugal to move on through Group B. Nothing has changed, but that Spain-Portugal game to start off the World Cup for me, that was the first full game I watched so far. It was fantastic.
Well, if you listen to last week's show, youngster, I'll have you say, what did I say about the Spain-Portugal game? What did I say the end result would be?
I don't remember if you didn't.
You don't remember? Come on, youngster. I said Spain and Portugal are going to tie, and it's going to come down to goal differential as far as who's number 1. That's why when you look at game number 1, the first game of that group, I said a tie. And now what they're going to do is they're just going to, Ronaldo's just going to be on a push, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to score another hat trick because we need goals. We need goals. Yeah. Because they're both going to win. There could be an upset. We're going to talk about a few of them as we move along. But for Spain and Portugal now, all their business is to win games and score as many goals as they can to try to get the number 1 seed. Right. But these two teams are evenly matched, very good squads. Like you said, man, you're talking about a World Cup memorable game. This one could rank up there in the top 10 of remarkable World Cup games. Not even just group play, like of all time, including finals and round of 16s and semifinals. It was one heck of a game, 2 great squads, but I think they showcased the firepower that they have, but their deficiencies. Where are their deficiencies? It's sometimes in the back. They can have those moments where they're not consistently good in the back, and when you play against another high-powered offense, you can concede goals. Both teams. 3-3, that's a high-scoring soccer game, Kevin. That's a high-scoring affair. But at the end of the day, the result to me, that's what I thought. These teams are going to tie. And as I watched, the game go on and on, you got to look there and say, man, Spain just never gave up, and they're resilient. That's why Spain and Portugal moving on into the round of 16, they could be teams that continually move on because they're very talented. Let's move on to Group C.
Two things I want to mention for football fans out there listening to this show. Not talking about international football because this is international football. Talking about NFL football. If you want to equate scoring goals and what it's like in the NFL, this isn't a perfect kind of representation of soccer to football. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Troy, but say you win 2-1. That's something like a team winning 20-something to 13, 17, 14, 24-14, 2-1. If you, like Portugal-Spain, 3-3, that's a high-scoring game. That's like 38-31. If you're Russia beating Saudi Arabia 5-0, that's like 51-0, basically. That's a complete and utter blowout. That's how I'll mention it, I guess, for very casual soccer fans listening to this show. If a team wins 4-1, It's like a team winning 41-17. It's somewhere in the 40s, somewhere in the teens. Depending on what you score, most teams aren't going to score 6 or more. Scoring 60, it basically doesn't happen. That's how I guess I would equate that. Also, the other thing I want to mention, too, is that, okay, Spain and Portugal are going to move on through this group anyway. Who cares? Who wins the group and who the top team is. It matters in the round of 16. There are 16 teams going to be making the second round, so to say, before it goes to 8 to 4 to 2, obviously to 1. But so if you're the top team in Group B, then you play the second-place team in Group whatever in the round of 16. If you're the second-place team in Group B, then you play the top team in Group whatever in the next round. So it does matter. Also, if you're like Germany and you lose and maybe you become the second team out of your group, then maybe if you're the first team in another group, you don't want to play Germany. Maybe you'd rather be second in your group. That's, down the line, obviously, so all this stuff isn't going to work out perfectly for where these countries are. It's only a 3-game set, and you only play these teams once, but it's just that's why it matters, so to say.
Youngster, I can't believe you said what you just said, and not in a bad way, about looking ahead. I'm gonna share a quick story. When I coached youth soccer, and we went to tournaments, you had the round robin play like you do in the World Cup, and the top team out of the group advances. And then there was usually 2 wild cards in your age division. And when you're looking at it, there were tournaments when I looked at our group and I looked at the competition outside of the group, and I'm thinking, man, my team would be much better off getting a wild card. Much better off than being a division winner. It's funny you said that. Now, as a coach, I'm going out there to win the games, but in my mind, I'm thinking we won't be in deep water if we're the wild card. If for some reason we would happen to lose, and as a coach, it makes me feel good. Like we might actually have a better path if we're the wild card. So it's funny you brought that up. It just sparked that in my mind that I used to do that, looking at the leaderboards and the scoreboards when I'd go there first thing in the morning on Saturday morning and take a look at the groups, who's in our group, who we're going to play. And in soccer, when you play a round robin, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, it's not like the NBA or the NFL where it's bracketed and you just move forward out of your bracket and then those 2 teams meet. It is, like you said, winner of Group A plays number 2 of group, I don't know what the layout is. Same thing when I was coaching youth soccer. Like you have 4 divisions. Here's your 4 division winners. The top 2 point getters get a bye. The other 4 teams play, and then it goes through. So it's winner of Group A against, and then it'll say whatever, top points. And you're actually slotted based on your performance. So it's different than the NFL or the NBA where you earn the number 1 seed, you play the 8th seed in the NBA. In soccer, you got to go out and you got to play all 3 games. And then you get slotted based on your performance. And so as a coach, you're sitting there going, well, if we were the best and we get the bye, maybe we don't want the bye because then we put – and the things that used to go through my head, youngster, were crazy. Like all the scenarios. Okay, I'm done interrupting. I just thought it was funny. It brought up some old coaching memories.
I remember as a kid playing basketball, Troy, that it would come down to that because say I'm not going to give one of my, childhood basketball examples. I'll give a Toronto Raptors NBA example. I guarantee you when the Cavs clinched the 4 seed, whenever they did that, I'm sure Toronto didn't want to be the 1 seed because they knew in the second round they would have to play the Cavs. They would rather play them in the Eastern Conference Finals rather than the semifinals. You can get 2 series wins under your belt, get your team feeling really well about how they're playing, beat a good team in the second round, and then, okay, here's Cleveland, here we go, here's the juggernaut matchup, as opposed to just breezing through round 1 and then like, oh my God, here's the Cavs. To get another series under your belt, I almost guarantee Toronto would have rather been the 2 seed in the NBA this year as opposed to the 1, so that they would get to play Philly in the second round as opposed to Cleveland in the second round. So sometimes losing at the end, and it's not, necessarily perfect example to use as the 1 seed somewhere, but it happens all the time in the NBA where you're the 3 seed, and if you win a game, you can move up to 2, but do you really want to be 2? Because you match up better against the 6 seed than the 7 seed in the first round. So you'd almost rather lose so that you have an easier first round to go through, because it's a 7-game series. It's not just 1 game. If you match up better with a team in a 7-game series, you should win that series. So sometimes it's better to play the 6 seed as opposed to the 7 seed. So it happens in the NBA all the time. And that could happen on the last day of this World Cup. If you're trying to avoid Germany, you're trying to avoid whoever, maybe you don't give out everything. Maybe you don't sub perfectly. Maybe you sub some of your stars out earlier than you would. It's just something to think about down the road. We'll move on. We've got 6 groups left to go. We want to move it along fairly quickly, and so we keep offshooting to other topics. But in any case, Group C, France beat Australia 2-1 on the first day. Denmark beat Peru 1-0. I'm curious about Denmark-Peru, Troy, because that was our first and one of 2 differences that we had in our predictions. You had Denmark as the second team in this group outside of France as the first team, as did I. You had Denmark, I had Peru. Denmark beat Peru 1-0.
That's because Denmark are like the mini Germans. They play a similar. No. I mean, they play a. I don't want to compare them to Germany by any means, but they try to play that disciplined style of soccer, and you look at it. That's the only reason. I like the way that they play. I'm surprised at the score of the France-Australia game. I'm looking now. France is still the team to beat. I think they're going to take care of Denmark. But to me, France only winning 2-1 against Australia. I know it's game day 1, round 1 of round robin. Maybe Australia had some extra adrenaline. But, man, I thought France was going to handle Australia a lot better than 2-1. I mean, that was, to me, a very close game. I know the stats probably aren't going to show it. But at the end of the day, I didn't think France – anytime a soccer game is still 1 goal, there's still a chance. No matter how much you're being dominated, you can be totally dominated for 90 minutes. Get into stoppage play, takes 1 turnover, 1 back to slip, and a breakaway to tie that game. And for France, Australia had hope all the way through injury time. Even though France is a better team, that score it surprised me a little bit. And again, France has been to a number of them. They understand, hey, look, it's 3 games in round robin. Look at our tournament. Look at our group. We've got Australia, Peru, and Denmark, which are good teams. Peru and Denmark are good teams. Peru's not done. They still have a chance to get the points back, but they have to hope that Denmark loses, and Peru's going to have to pull an upset. They're going to have to beat a France, and they're going to have to take care of business against Australia. Now, I guess where I'm going with this is Australia, to me, hanging in there with France and only losing 2-1, maybe they take care of business against Denmark and Peru. Maybe they advance out of that group. They kept the score close against France. Maybe they can pull off 2 wins against Denmark and Peru. I wouldn't say no to that. But again, I like Denmark, and I have liked Denmark. They try to play that disciplined style of soccer and move up and down as a team and do a lot of movement off the ball. And, they happen to get a 1-0 win against Peru. If Peru and Denmark played again today, Kevin, Peru could very easily win that game 1-0. I think Peru and Denmark are very similar as far as skill level goes and what the outcomes could be. Denmark just happened to be better in those 90-plus minutes on game day 1. That's all I got.
Yeah, for now, you were right. You had Denmark. I had Peru for now. So wanted to mention that. Also, if Australia, maybe they don't even have to win out, and win these last 2. Maybe you can tie 1 and win 1. If France takes care of Denmark 3-0, beats Peru 4-1, then Australia can go on based on goal differential. They don't even have to necessarily beat both Denmark and Peru. So just something to keep an eye on. Keeping it close against the juggernaut in your group may be the difference in you advancing and being the second team in your group as opposed to being the third team in your group. Moving on to Group D, Croatia beat Nigeria 2-0. I know this is something that interests you, Troy. Also interesting in this group, Argentina, Iceland. Iceland soccer versus Argentina soccer. If you listen to our preview show of the World Cup, talked about Argentina, how dominant offensively they are. They played Iceland, and they tied 1-1. So what happened to Argentina? Croatia beat Nigeria 2-0. So Croatia is on top of the group. Argentina, Iceland, both with 1 point. Nigeria with none. I know both these games were interesting to you, Troy. You had an interest in Nigeria and Argentina tying Iceland 1-1. If you were to say they tied Iceland, I would have guessed it would have been 2-2. At the least, I would have been even less surprised that it was 3-3 as opposed to 1-1. I would have guessed Argentina would have put in some goals, not just one against Iceland. And hats off to Iceland for getting a tie against Argentina. Again, tying, the most talented team in your group. That's even better as opposed to Australia.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a point out of it.
Yeah. So that could be the difference for Iceland. Moving on.
It very well could. Want to go back to last week's show, Kevin. If you remember, I said I didn't have the kahunas to pick Nigeria over Argentina. But there is a reason why I dislike Argentina in the World Cup every year. And I brought it up last week. It is a talented team. On paper, maybe the most talent in the world. But they don't put it together. You have a bunch of egos on that field. And a lot of times what happens to a lot of great, talented teams. Too many egos. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason. And again, I got to give credit to Iceland, their game plan. But again, too, statistically, Kevin, if you look at the stats, Argentina not being able to put in 2 goals, they dominated the game. They dominated possession. They dominated shots. Sometimes the ball doesn't go in the net. But sometimes frustration takes over. You played athletics. If I recall, you played soccer when you were younger, not at a highly competitive level.
I didn't play soccer whatsoever.
You just like soccer. All right, so I'll go back I hate to share just, hey, when I played, reliving the old days. But plenty of times on that soccer field when I played on teams that were much more talented than another team, they come out, they're guns a-blazing. They're going after every loose 50-50 ball. They're winning 50-50 balls in the air. They're making some plays. They're frustrating the better team. They're having confidence. Then you play on a team, and I'll call it an all-star team because back then that's what they called them. You get all these guys from different teams and different schools, the best, and you don't think of Green Bay as a soccer juggernaut, and we weren't, but we were good. We could compete in the state. I mean, we were good. But you get these guys that haven't played together, and they're playing for different clubs, different schools, very good players. You play tournaments together. What happens is you get these guys, and you're so used to playing with another group of guys on your club team or your high school team that you get frustrated. Like, why aren't you giving me the ball? Why aren't you giving me the ball? Why aren't you shooting the ball? Give me the ball! And you're getting mad. You're getting internally mad at your own team. And then you get it, and you're so frustrated because you've been pissing and moaning the whole game at your teammates that you screw up. And I see that with Argentina. I do. I see that every 4 years. Because talent-wise, Kevin, look at that on paper. How does that team tie Iceland? How do they tie Iceland?
I don't know.
It goes to what I'm saying. Frustration level. And you got to give a little credit to Iceland for frustrating Argentina because that plays into it. But I'm going to move on there to the Nigeria quickly. I know I'm spending too much time on this. Nigeria, I like.
Oh, yeah. You go.
I'm just going to throw the Nigeria, my thoughts there, and then let you take over for the rest of the group. Then we can move on. Nigeria, to me, Kevin, I like them. They're fast on the flank. They're a good team. But I had mentioned on the show also, it's feast or famine. That they're going to score, and they're going to be able to win games, or they're going to get counterattacked on, and they're going to lose. They're not great in the back. They're just fast. And so, to me, you look at this Croatia team, one of those European teams that is going to be very disciplined, fast, quick, a lot of ball movement. Nigeria, to me, Kevin, the outcome 2-0 doesn't surprise me. I like Nigeria, but it doesn't surprise me. They're going to be able to really disrupt things and score goals, or they're going to concede goals. And that's what they did against Croatia. That's all I got.
Yeah. Last thing I want to mention, Argentina plays Croatia Thursday, June 21st. Argentina plays Nigeria Tuesday, June 26th. Moving on to Group E. Serbia is on top of the group. They beat Costa Rica 1-0. Brazil played Switzerland in this group. They tied 1-1. Switzerland's got for what I know, again, my knowledge is not profound, but I know a solid amount. Switzerland plays good defense, and they held a high-powered offense in Brazil to 1 goal. They were able to get a goal themselves, so they got the tie with Brazil. It's fantastic for Switzerland. Serbia got their little 1-0 win over Costa Rica. None of these teams are out of it. Brazil is still the most talented team of this group. I believe we both had Brazil and Switzerland. Brazil winning the group, Switzerland in second. Yes, we did. That Brazil-Switzerland game ending up in a tie, again, probably goes down to goal differential and who can beat Serbia and Costa Rica the worst. Will end up winning the group. Who will be second. But Serbia is not bad. I know that much. But in the end, Brazil gets Costa Rica Friday, June 22nd. Serbia gets Switzerland June 22nd. And then this group finishes on Wednesday, June 27th. I believe that's actually the last day. No, it goes until the 28th. I lied. I keep thinking different days as to when group stage play ends. I believe it's the 28th. But so, anyway, in any case, again, Serbia is on top of the group with 3 points. Brazil and Switzerland tied, both with 1. And then Costa Rica is at the bottom with 0.
Yeah, and I had mentioned on the show, Kevin, and I know your memory, it's like you might be the old man, or maybe you just don't listen to me when I talk.
I remembered, Troy, that you said that Spain and Portugal would tie. I thought you were asking what the score would be.
Oh, no, I didn't give a score. I just said a tie. So okay. Let's try this little, do you remember again? Do you remember what I said about Switzerland? When I was picking...
This one I don't remember entirely. No,
yeah,
I certainly remember Portugal, Spain.
Yeah, it was just one of those where I like Switzerland. I think they're a good team. They're a soccer team. And again, you look at the teams that can win and can do things in the tournament, aka Iceland, played good team soccer against an Argentina team that is 20 times more talented than them, but they came away with a draw. The Swiss, you mentioned it, they're great in the back. And if they can do things and take select chances, move up and capitalize, they can do what they did. So now, I mean, for the Swiss, some people may be thinking, a tie is not that great. For the Swiss to tie Brazil, that now basically they control their own destiny as far as advancing if they take care of business in the next 2 games. And I like Switzerland. They're a very good team, a good solid team. Again, fundamentally sound, technically sound. I'm happy for Switzerland. Brazil, on the other hand, again, Kevin, I'm not saying that they tend to play a little better than Argentina, but here's again what happens. You get a bunch of these big stars. You put them on the pitch, and you got to see how they mesh together. And Brazil, maybe it took a game, or, like I said with France, Brazil's been to a number of these. They know it's a round robin. The key is to advance to get out. They can play with anybody in the world, Kevin. So to them, does a 1 or 2 seed really matter? I mean, it does. Like we talked about, it really does. But in the mindset of a team like that is so good and dominant, does it really matter if we're 1 or 2? We just need to get to the round of 16. So that's all I'm going to say there. You can move on.
And if you're Brazil, Troy, just because you just gave that example, if you're the number 1 team in Group E, you play the number 2 team in Group F, which could very well, since Germany lost, be Germany. So we could have Brazil play Germany in the round of 16.
That would be one heck of a round of 16 game.
Yeah. That would be the final. I mean, realistically, for those that don't know anything, Brazil playing Germany in the final wouldn't be a stretch. So if they have that in the round of 16, like Troy is saying, it would be a heck of a matchup.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the next group. I have nothing else.
Group F. Mexico beat Germany 1-0. I know you want to talk about this one, Troy. Sweden, South Korea. Sweden also beat South Korea 1-0. So Mexico has 3 points. Sweden has 3 points. Germany with none. South Korea with none. But again, you play every team once. So Germany losing 1-0 against Mexico when, to me, they played like the better team. I'm not going to get in depth. I know Troy will. I watched the entire game. Mexico did a fantastic job keeping Germany from scoring. They got their goal. They won the game. But again, 2 teams advance out of 4 for each of these groups. Germany has enough talent, I think, and their system, and they play well together as a team. They just didn't score 1 goal against Mexico. Doesn't necessarily mean that all is lost with the world. Maybe Germany doesn't win this group, because I do think Mexico beats both Sweden and South Korea. I do. So I think Mexico finishes with 9 points. I think Germany finishes with 6. I do think Mexico ends up winning this group, but in the end, both Mexico and Germany will advance. Germany will be fine, although they could play the winner, or they would, if they are the second team in Group F, play the winner of Group E, which could, again, be Brazil. So you don't want to be the second team in Group F if you have to play Brazil in the round of 16. You'd rather play a Switzerland, which, like you said, Troy, and we mentioned this before, this is one of the round of 16 matchups I'm most interested in, because I know with you, I think Switzerland can play with just about anybody, and if it is Germany, that's one thing. If Switzerland plays Mexico, then maybe advantage Switzerland. And if Brazil plays Germany, we could have something very nice coming out of the round of 16 for these Group E, Group F, and how they play each other 1 versus 2, 2 versus 1, flip-flop. So interesting stuff. Mexico and Sweden on top of the group right now. Germany and South Korea at the bottom with 0 points.
Yeah, well, South Korea will probably stay on the bottom. just saying. I'll start that way. So I was telling you before the show, for my casual fans that were trying to talk World Cup soccer with me and asked me who I liked, and I said I like Germany to repeat, I got ribbed all week, Kevin. Like, oh, what happened to your German team? They don't look like they're going to win. It's 1 game in a round-robin tournament. Like you said, this tournament's not over. And as I counterattacked back, it's not like Germany went out there and pooed the bed against a crappy team. They didn't pull an Argentina against an Iceland. They played Mexico, who you and I both talked about last week, is a very talented team. They are one of the best 16 teams in this tournament. Mexico deserves to move on, as does Germany. Germany played a good game. Mexico got their goal, like you said, Kevin, and they kept the pressure on. Germany didn't capitalize on their opportunities, and that's all it takes. In soccer, especially at that level, when you have an opportunity, you have to capitalize, or it could come back to bite you in the rear. You can't miss opportunities. Germany missed a few opportunities, good chances, good scoring chances, didn't capitalize. Mexico capitalized on 1, and that's all it took. But as far as my thought goes here, yeah, our group prediction, probably wrong, Kevin. It looks like Mexico should win their next 2 games. They'll be number 1. But our advancing teams, Mexico and Germany, that's who we picked. They will advance. And like you said, advancing out, now it's like, oh my, it's going to be interesting. Who are they going to play? But as far as my thoughts on Germany, I haven't changed one bit. Germany, to me, is still the team to beat, still the team that could win the World Cup for a second time in a row. That's all I'm going to say out of this group. I know Sweden played. I like Sweden. I had mentioned I think Sweden got the short end of the stick being in this group. Could they pull an upset against a Germany or a Mexico? It would take one heck of an effort, and it would have to be a perfect day on the pitch for them. But if they did, man, that really would put a wrench into this group. But, again, I like that Swede team, but they got the short end of the stick being in this group. In a World Cup tournament that's watered down, Sweden got the short end of the stick, being with Germany and Mexico. Unfortunate for them, but they took care of business on game day one. Now they got to move to their second game and see what they do. We can move forward, youngster.
It may just take ties for Sweden. You know, if they tied Germany, okay, you're still 3 points up on Germany. You know, so depending on how it goes, obviously, it will dictate who advances, but maybe Sweden just needs a tie or two to advance. Then it goes down to goal differential, which, you know, winning against South Korea 1-0 wouldn't help Sweden in that regard, but maybe it just takes a miraculous tie against Germany to advance. We'll see. Also, I wanted to mention to you, Troy, or ask you, it was Germany that beat Brazil like 6-0, 7-0. Is that correct? Was that last World Cup, or was that 2 World Cups ago?
I think it was last World Cup. I'm getting too old. But, yeah, they dismantled them when it was a big, oh, my God, what happened to Brazil? And the world was coming to an end because of that. But that's Germany, Kevin. They're like a well-oiled machine. When things are going well and the other team gets frustrated, that's what they can do. They can dismantle some of the best teams in the world by multiple goals. So that's why, again, I haven't changed my tune about Germany. They played well. They had scoring chances. They just didn't capitalize. And sometimes in the world of sports, you have that day where nothing's going your way when it comes to capitalizing on scoring touchdowns, three-pointers, goals in soccer. Sometimes the ball is just not going in the net. That's all I got.
Yeah, just something I wanted to mention. For those that don't know, Germany absolutely demolished Brazil, we believe, 4 years ago. Moving on, Group G, there's 2 groups left. Belgium is my rooting interest in this World Cup. I'm going to watch every single minute of every single game. I saw them play Panama. You talked about how, you know, Argentina, Iceland, it's like all you got to do is hang in there for 90 minutes and maybe you can tie or even win. You know, it just takes one goal. Panama was down 1-0, I think, for the first, it was at least 55 minutes, 60 minutes. It may have gone 70 minutes until Belgium put in 2 late ones. I believe that stretch went 70 minutes where Belgium was just up 1-0. Panama is a darling Cinderella story. Belgium, I believe, if I heard it right, was ranked 3rd in this World Cup, which I would have guessed top 5, not 3rd. But so Belgium's one of the powerhouses. Panama is not. Belgium should have crushed Panama. They did win 3-0. In the end, that's what matters. But Panama held tight for a while. It was an interesting game to watch for a while. And then England beat Tunisia 2-1. England should have won that game. I think Harry Kane scored in the 90th.
I can't believe they conceded a goal. I can't believe they let Tunisia score.
And it lasted like 89, 90 minutes. I mean, England got the go-ahead 2-1 game winner. I think it was in the 90th by Kane. It might have been the 89th, whatever it was. England barely won this game at the end. But so Belgium and England have 3 points. Tunisia, Panama, of course, have 0. That's what everyone would have predicted. And again, Belgium versus England is Thursday, June 28th. That's the game to watch in this group. Both those teams are the powerhouses in this group. There's no denying them.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. You can move on.
Group H, last group. Japan has 3 points. Senegal has 3 points. Japan beat Colombia today 2-1. We both picked Colombia to win this group. And again, Colombia is actually we both had Colombia in first, Poland in second. Both those teams lost, but it's still only day one, game one of the World Cup for these teams. So again, Japan beat Colombia 2-1. Senegal beat Poland 2-1. We have both been wrong so far. Again, it's only one game. You still got 2 to go. Anything can happen, especially when the goal differential is sitting there for 1, at -1 for both Poland and Colombia. I'll still pick both those teams to do what they need to do. Although, I guess, realistically, if I were to predict every single game, maybe I'd come out differently because I think Colombia will beat Poland, and so Poland might have 0 points going into the third game. And so Poland may end up being screwed, potentially. But so that's, I guess, the key note is that we both believe Colombia to be the most talented team in this group. And if Colombia and Poland tie, that may very well eliminate one of them because Japan and Senegal, one of them will have 6 points. And so if you have one,
well, not necessarily. They could tie, Kevin, and then both have 4.
No, yeah, I hear you. But if Japan and Senegal, if one of them wins the game, one of those teams is going to move on.
Oh yeah, they'll move on. They'll clinch, and then they make our perfect predictions wrong.
Yeah. So interesting stuff in Group H. This is, we believe, this is the group that does not have a powerhouse. At least that's my opinion. This is the last group. Some talented teams in this group, obviously. Obviously, anyone can win this group. They showed it in Game 1. Both Japan and Senegal proved it against Colombia and Poland. But I'll stick with, I guess, Colombia advancing in this group somehow.
Yeah, it's just this is that one group where you're like, really? I'll watch because I'm a soccer fan. However, I can't comment because these games were played today. And so I was working, and I don't have nothing more than a score. So it's the one thing about that sucks with the World Cup is these games are during the week. And, I can't watch every game because I work during the day. So I don't have anything other to say other than you look at it, these teams are pretty evenly matched. So when I get home, I'm going to watch some highlights, do some reading about this. I'm not sure if I DVR'd today or not. I can't remember. But definitely try to catch some of the recap. But I think Colombia can still take care of business. But like you said, Kevin, if one Japan or Senegal win, that's pretty much, I don't think they would clinch, depending on what happens. But, yeah, that would put a damper on our predictions. So interesting game day 1, I'll tell you that, youngster. I have nothing else. Do you have anything else for the listeners?
Quick, intriguing game day 2 stuff. Serbia, Switzerland, Friday, June 22nd. It's something you may want to DVR. I'm just literally going through. Argentina, Croatia could be interesting. That's Thursday, June 21st. I, like you, Troy, I'm DVRing some of these because they're during the week and I work. Let's see here. Group B. No, Portugal already played Spain. Group A, Uruguay, Russia. That's down the line. So that's the most interesting game, I think, to me. Game day 2 would be Argentina, Croatia. I think that's probably the one to look for and see if Argentina's offense can get going. If not, then maybe they'll screw themselves out of even getting out of the group. We'll see.
Very well, it could happen.
Yeah, Serbia, Switzerland is another one, I guess, that I would put my eyes on as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just love the World Cup. I love, some of the upsets really make it interesting, especially for a casual fan to get on a storyline, to get on Cinderellas. I think it's great. I think it's great for the World Cup, even though I think this is a watered-down field, not as talented as years past. It allows for some of these storylines and feel-good stories to happen. So I'm interested. I'm interested going into the second round of games. It'll be interesting as we recap next week. We'll probably do it on Monday or Tuesday, whatever works better for our schedule. So find us on thegruelingtruth.net or follow our show handle at YoungsterOldMan on Twitter, or you can follow us personally at TroyRobert967, and the youngster is at KidCunny. Hope you enjoyed this World Cup, I guess, wrap-up. of game day one. We'll get back at you next week. Have a great week, everyone.